Okay, so we'll be seeing overtimes today, but before that, I want to touch base on fixed rules. Fixed rule is a pay rule policy. Like once you create a work rule, you add a fixed rule to it and you create a pay rule. So these are the pay rule building blocks. I have to tell you about fixed rules because you that will help you understand overtimes much better. So um, Okay, so we have to define something called as pay period boundary. So how do you define what the pay period type or length is? Like, should the pay period be 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month or 1 day or 3 days? Whatever it is, that is what you set up in your fixed rule. So you have to give a reference for day divide. So there's an option called day divide here. So there are three different types of options to define a pay period. One is by using pay period type or length, like this could be weekly or semi-weekly, I mean bi-weekly or semi-monthly or monthly. Two is a reference day or a date. This is going to anchor a date and it's going to count at least two periods when determining your reference day. And the third option is day divide. So day divide, you select this for the day to start. So normally this is midnight, but it can also be other times depending upon the requirement. Um, okay, so um, So when you're creating the fixed rules, you have to do it carefully when you're doing it for the first time because this is some important elements like labor levels. So you cannot keep changing this often once you have created. So let's see some types of pay periods. I'll use Excel to demonstrate. So, if I am going to say I'm going to divide it weekly. So what I mean is, I have my Sunday to Monday, right? Sunday. Okay, consider this one as a month. This whole thing as a month. Okay, so if I say weekly, what is going to happen is this first week is going to be 1 week. The second is going to be a second week. I'll put it differently. Third is going to be another week, and fourth is going to be another week. So here, this is your pay period 1, this is pay period 2, this is pay period 3, this is pay period 4. So if I say weekly, this is how the weekly thing is going to get split. If I'm going to say bi-weekly or semi-monthly, what's going to happen? It's going to be like this. Okay. So if this is weekly, right? So this is so what is going to happen in semi-monthly? So it's going to split your 30 or 31 days into 15 and 15. So this will be 1 week, this will be one pay period, and this will be another pay period. So what pay period means is basically, it's going to refer, the system is going to refer to these dates to compute any overtimes or the view that you see. Like when you're going to select your employees to run reports, you can see options, right? Previous pay period, current, next. So those pay periods are what you'll be setting up here. So understood what a pay period is?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll go much deeper into it later, but I just want to, cover some important topics. So I'll tell you what day divide is. Okay, so in addition to telling what date a pay period is, like if I'm going to say this Wednesday, say 8/26 or something, it knows that it is in my semi-monthly period. But what is that day going to look like? So I'm coming at 11 p.m. I'm leaving at 7 a.m. In between, there is something, there is a midnight here, right? There is a midnight here, and I'm leaving at 7 a.m. So 11:59 is the last. Let's see, 8:26. This is 8:27. So I'm coming at 11 p.m. on 26th of August, and I'm going at 7 a.m. on 27th of August. So there is a time that is going to divide these two things. So in addition to determining at what date the pay period belongs to, like we saw before, we must also determine at what time the pay period is going to begin. So this time is used to separate the date and time of one pay period from another and from another pay period. So this is used to determine when each day begins and ends. Like well, AM is the default, which means that midnight is the first minute of a new day, like we generally do. So if there is a different uh, if a different day divide is selected, it will create a different you know it will create a different pay period sort of. So we will see what hours belong to means. So there's an option called hours belong to here. So there are scheduled in, scheduled out, day with majority, they actually work. So let's consider some scenarios. So consider that I'm coming at 11 p.m. I'm going at 7 a.m. on Monday. So my work is starting on Monday. I'm seeing midnight on Tuesday morning 7 a.m. I'm leaving. So let's see scheduled in there, scheduled out there. So these four options are the options there in the system. So I'm going to give you a demo. So if I'm going to come at 11 p.m. on Monday, I'm going to leave at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. Okay. So we'll see how all these options are going to work when you select it. So if you say scheduled in day, your shift total is 8 hours here, right? So all those 8 hours will apply to Monday, 26th of August. So here 8:26. So on 8:26, you can see that there are 8 hours. If you select schedule out day, you can see those 8 hours on 27th. Days with majority hours means like on which day you're majorly you have worked. So it's going to obviously be Tuesday. So it will be 8:27. And day actually work. So what is the day you actually work? It is Monday 1 hour and on Tuesday you have worked 7 hours. So it's going to divide and put 1 hour for 8:26 and 7 hours for 8:27. Yeah, understood. Like any doubts in this? We'll go to overtimes.
No, ma'am, this is okay.
Okay, very good. Just give me 1 minute. So this is how your pay period is calculated. This is also one of the most important interview questions. They'll ask you like, where is the setup where you define your pay period? So the answer is fixed rule. It's under the payroll policies.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
suppose my shift is 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. Then that time I'll put the 8:26 is 8:27 or 8:26.
8:27.
Okay.
So 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. Right. So scheduled in
Yeah.
day. In this, you're only working in 8:27. So there's no question of 8:26 here. In this case, it's
Okay.
everything is going to be 8:27. Working 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. is same like working 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. right within the day. So you know that within 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. it is that day. But if you work
Okay.
like overnight or something, then you will apply something called as day divide. And in those cases, you have to tell the system how to calculate, right? Do you want all those days to fall on the next day or the previous day? Okay, clear or
Yes, ma'am.
okay? So let's see. Oh, thanks. Okay, so we saw daily overtime yesterday, right? Right. We had Monday, Monday, Tuesday, to Saturday. So suppose my total hours worked on Monday is 10, Tuesday is 7, Wednesday is 9, Thursday is 7, Friday is 8, and Saturday I work for 3 hours. So we saw that my total hours is going to be 44. Uh, my overtime hours is 3. 41 is my non-overtime hours. My shift is for 10. Okay, I think we did another example yesterday. Um, okay, it's okay. We'll try to do this. So let's see what the setup looks like, and we'll see what options we need to determine. So this is a new overtime thing. So we'll be defining a name for it. We have to specify when the overtime is going to start. So we have to enter an amount to be worked before an employee can begin to earn overtime. So we are creating a daily overtime rule where employee will earn a higher rate of pay after working for 8 hours in a day. So I will be making this as 8. Okay. So So use employee work hours. So there's another option called use employee work hours definition. So this amount of time is taken from the working hours definition in employment terms. Employment terms is a different setup, like it's a very small setup. We can see at the end of the class if we just want to go through the setup once. So that we generally don't use too much. So requires approval is an important part here. So only when you click this, it specifies whether the overtime rule requires a manager's approval for all the overtime hours. So generally overtime hours are approved in a Genie or a time card under the approve menu. When a manager is going to log in, he'll be getting it under his inbox, or he can use a Genie to select it. So the overtime pay code is defined in the pay code distribution. So when we create a pay code, we must have created some OT pay codes. So this is the pay code that is displayed when the OT is approved. So we will be selecting the pay code here, and this pay code is sent for approval. The pay code for unapproved overtime is defined in the employee's workload. So when we create a workload, we can see where that option is going to fall. So minimum over limit. So this is the minimum amount of overtime that must be worked before employees begin to earn overtime. So I'm just going to leave it as 0 because I only want to see if my employees work more than a shift. I just want to pay it for it. Reset. So there are some options in this. New day and new shift is similar. So we'll see new day now. Uh, so for daily overtimes, we are going to select a new day because we're just going to see if there's more than 8 that's work. So so in actions, we see some options where some actions can be taken on overtime, like when a limit is reached. Like, do you want a warning alert to be sent via the clocks or on the punches? The same. These are the same options, like either the clock or the time card. But you can create actions for warning alert, for overtime reach, and for the projected overtime alert. Count towards overtime. We have this is used to determine if certain pay codes help the employee reach this overtime limit. So we can select pay codes that can, track all these hours. Like we have some unapproved OT, so we can use this. So there are some type of people, like some type means like some hourly or salaried people who cannot, who are not eligible to earn overtime money. So they might have logged out late that day. So it doesn't mean that they have to be paid for overtime, right? So in those cases, you can use an unapproved OT and you can select this pay code and it's going to track it. So you can see it on the time card and that doesn't get sent to the payroll. So So in advanced, this is going to allow you to process selected overtime before other overtime and specify how overtime is allocated to transfers. So when there's any transfer on the page, like if there's an employee moving from one shift to another, so in those cases, in for those type of OT, you can use the advanced option to select which pay codes is going to hold all those options. Okay, so I'll just save this. I'll just save this. This is a very simple daily thing I've created. I'll explain this, but I'm just going to save this for now. Let's save everything. Um, just checking. Okay. We see. I- Okay. So after overtime is something called as a combination rule. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to tell you what it is going to do. So a combination rule is allowing you to tell the system how to pay an employee when more than one condition occurs. Like you're working overtime while working a night shift. So generally there will be a different pay for night shift, and uh, so you're already working a night shift and you're also going to work overtime. So this is a combination, right? Like there are two things occurring. So how do you want the system to interpret this? So for those cases, we'll be using a combination rule. But we'll just first understand how the other overtimes work, like weekly or etc. Okay. So in daily, I'm using an example for 8 hours. So I'm saying that my employee should not cross 8 hours. So in weekly, what is my condition? I'll be working 8 hours a day for 5 days. So it is 40. So instead of looking at this daily, my system is going to see if I have crossed more than 40 hours in a week. So in the same example, if daily is going to be calculated, what it is going to see, it's instead of 44, it will not consider this week, I think, because there have not been any shift. So the number of hours is going to be different. So for weekly, my threshold is only 40. Like I can work 40. So I'm going to get 4 hours of OT in my weekly. So we'll see what a bi-weekly pay period using weekly overtime is going to look like. So 10, 9, 8. Here I'll say 8, 7, 8. So totally in this week, it's going to be 43 hours. And in this week, it is going to be this week it's going to be 39 hours. So if you consider this as a weekly period, for this week, if you're just going to do your fixed rule for 1 week, then in this week, what is going to happen? He's going to get 3 hours of overtime. In this case, he will not be getting any overtime because he's only worked 39, which is less than 40. But if you're going to do bi-weekly, you will consider this whole thing for 2 weeks. You're going to consider. So what happens? He has worked for 82 hours. So in this 79 hours is overtime and 3 hours is OT. So in this demonstration here, we have tried to demonstrate how a 40-hour weekly overtime rule is calculated and how it is paid for during a bi-weekly period. So your overtime rule can be for a week, but you can pay it for bi-weekly. So weekly overtime is defined as earning a higher rate of pay or maybe earning 1.5 times your base rate after working a specified number of hours in a week. A bi-weekly pay period is 14 days, right? So bi-weekly, two weeks once means it's 14-day period. So it's going to establish when the pay period begins and ends. The pay period is defined in the fixed rule, like we saw before. This employee earns 3 hours of overtime on Friday on the first week for more than 40 hours. So on Friday, he's going to have 3 hours of OT. In the second week, they only work for 39. So no overtime is paid. So for the total pay period, when you consider, this employee is going to get 79 hours of regular pay. Regular pay is 79 and OT is 3 hours. So in the overtime rule, we have to tell the system how many hours the employee must work before earning overtime and when to reset the overtime counter. So all this is based on the requirements that we get. We will set up a weekly one. So my overtime is going to start after 40 hours because I'm going to do a weekly one. I'm going to reset it on a new week and I'll reset it on Sunday. I'll leave it at the default. I'll save this. Okay. So we saw weekly. We'll see how bi-weekly is going to work. So instead of counting week, we will see 2 weeks once how it's going to uh, calculate. This is also important because there are some companies that pay overtime when employee works more than a set number of hours in a 2-week period. So typically overtime is paid when employee work more than 80 hours in this period. The pay period and bi-weekly overtime period do not have to be the same, but they generally are. Like your pay period can be for a week and your OT can be for 2 weeks. But generally to avoid confusion, your OT will be same as your pay period. Okay, so in this case, let's say 10, 10, 10, 8, 8, 7, 8, 8, 8. So how the system is going to calculate, it will not see all this. So it's going to take it together, all this, it's going to be one thing. And that number is going to be 82. So 82. So more than 80 only you're going to pay them. So your OT is only going to be 2 hours. Understood? Any questions? Any clarifications? So for this, I have to go and select new by week. I'm not going to set this up. I'm going to give you how others work, and I'll be giving this task for you to work. So I'm not going to set this. I'm only going to go through. But I just want to know if you understand. Okay, so the first setup is very simple. So we'll see what count towards overtime means and how this is going to get associated with pay codes. So we have to recognize that there are some pay codes that contribute to overtimes and there are some that do not. We have an unapproved overtime pay code in our system. So there's a flexibility by defining which pay codes count towards overtime and which do not. Because there are scenarios where pay code edit should count towards one overtime, such as daily, but they should not be counting towards weekly. So you need to have a daily overtime and a weekly overtime. So we'll see a scenario for this. We'll see a scenario for this. So here, so on Monday I work 9 hours, on Tuesday I work 7, on Wednesday I have 8, on Thursday I have 8, and on Friday I have 8, on Saturday I have 3. So, uh, so in the case of daily, weekly, daily means they should work more than 8 hours. Remaining hours above 8 is my 40. In weekly, they have to work over 40. So, uh, so think of a pay code like a vacation pay code. So consider a vacation pay code. So if there is a vacation pay code applied on your time card, say like I'm taking vacation for 2 hours on Tuesday, then I want that amount to also be added in my overtime. Okay, so and I also have another vacation of 2 hours. So we're going to see this setup on the second page, like how pay codes are going to count towards overtime. So that is why I'm saying that I've worked for 7 hours on Tuesday, but I have a vacation pay code applied on my time card. Like I'm going for vacation for 2 hours on Tuesday, and I'm using my vacation for 2 hours on Saturday. So let's see how this thing is going to get calculated. So what is the total hour work here? So it's 9. In my daily, it's more than 8. So I get 1 here. Here also 9 hours because my vacation was it's counting towards overtime. So I get 1. Here is 0 overtime, 0 overtime, 0 overtime. And here also 0 overtime. Okay. So what is my total for the week? Does somebody want to answer?
3 hours for
Yeah,
weekly.
for a week it's 3 hours. So I'll put 3 hours in my Saturday. So I'll explain the scenario. So my employee is going to earn a daily overtime when they work more than 8 hours in a day. My employee is also going to earn a weekly overtime for working more than 40 hours. A pay code edit for the pay code vacation should count towards daily but not the weekly overtime. So for weekly it's not going to count, only for daily I'm going to have my vacation count. So for this we will have to, we will have to make changes to our daily overtime over 8. So what we have to do is we will have to First go and make sure that our pay code, our vacation pay code, it needs to have edit counts towards overtime limits, this option to be selected. So if this is not selected, even if you add this pay code in the overtime rule, it's not going to work. Okay, now I'll have to go to my overtime. So if you have a pay code and if you cannot see the pay code in reports or on time cut, or you cannot see it in overtimes, the place you have to check is this place. You have to make sure that the necessary option is selected. So here you see visible in report options and report rules. If this is not selected, you will not be able to see this pay code and its associated amount in your report. So similarly, the same way, you have to select this to make this count towards your overtime limits. So I'm going to go back to my overtime. I'm going to select my daily overtime because I want to make sure that my pay code is added to this. So what I'll do is I will go and select the pay codes. For now, I'm just going to do vacation. I'll select it, use this option to push this. So there are some options here. Pay codes configured to count towards overtime limits. So this is the default option and it allows the configuration in pay code definition, like whatever is there in the pay code definition. Contribution pay codes, we have seen contributing pay codes, right? Like adding two pay codes together and to see what hours is going to go into what. And if I want only a specific thing to apply, like now I've said I want vacation to apply only to daily but not weekly, so I'm going to select vacation pay codes. So I'll be saving this. So for return, I think I'll do requires approval. Okay, I'll save this. So this is how my pay code is going to get added to an overtime. So if you want to make other additions to your overtime rule, there are some things you have to consider. Like your pay code edits, and you have to select a specific pay code that count towards it, and you have to configure this in your overtime rule like we did now. So what is your pay code? You for example consider overtime pay code. You're going to select an overtime pay code. So you have to come and specify which pay code that counts for specific overtime. So you have to select which overtime rule counts towards specific overtime. So you second tab. So this configuration we'll be doing it in the combination rule. I know this is very confusing, but once you finish your combination and you create a work rule, this will make sense when we test it for an employee. So instead of one pay code we selected here for vacation, you can also select multiple pay codes. So it can be night shift or a regular or etc. So I'll give you the homework for that. You can try and you can let me know. We will see if there is an alert that you can create. Okay, this advanced, we will create a work rule and then we'll come back and we will create this with a test. So are you all clear with this or do you have any questions? But I will tell you something about SQL system today. So
Okay.
this tool that you see here is called the SQL Server Management Studio. I'll create notes for you and I'll send it to you. So all you have to do is you have to download it from internet and you have to use it. So when I click on this management studio, it will ask me for the server name and it will ask me for my credentials. So it depends on the company that you work for. So here they have given me Windows authorization. So I have this server name here. So I'll click on connect. So it's going to connect to the database. So I'm going to connect as a user to the database. So once this is done, I'm going to select a new query. This is my query page. So here I'm going to do some queries. I'll teach you some very basic queries. So the first thing you'll do in SQL is you use a select statement. So what is select is you're going to tell the system, hey, go and select all these tables from this table. So for this you need to know some tables. Select star from person. So person table is something that holds information about all people in the Kronos system. So these are all the employees that are there. So I created uh, some codes for you both as well. I have to create some more users for you so you can test. I'm working on it. So you can see all this information here in the system at one place. So this is one table called person. So it's going to have all the person information. Similarly, you can see if there is, oh, there's a pay code table. So in this pay code table, you can see all the pay codes that are in the system, like this. There are some different columns. So you can mix match one or two pay code. You can mix match one or two tables, and you can create your own query. So this is a very simple SQL statement. So we can do something more in this. So I know I have this table. So here there are only 22 rows, but in your company you'll be having more than 1 lakh rows or something like that, depending on your user base. So if I don't know what rows I want, like what person number I want, but I know the last name and the first name. So what I can do is I'll use a where condition. Where is nothing but it's going to tell the system, you use this condition. Conditioning, you do it with where. Where first name, first name. So first name is the column that you see here. First name in. If I do in, it means it's either of these two it's going to get for me. And I have to make sure whatever I want to search, I have to put it within two quotes like this. And if there are multiple entries that I want to find, then I have to use comma. If I want to only search for one, okay, I'll show how this works. So now this is going to select and bring whatever matches Ranoli and Shashmita in the first name. If I only want to do one one search, then I will be selecting like this. First name equal to, in this case I'll delete this. So if I do this, it's going to execute this and it's going to get this one. So what I want you both to do is, I'll send you some instructions tonight. If possible, tomorrow morning, if you have time. Not necessarily like we'll not be saying this tomorrow, but if you have some time this week, I want you to download SQL Server Management Studio to your laptops, and also download a database called AdventureWorks. They're both free. It both belongs to Microsoft. So AdventureWorks is a database like this WFCDB. So this is my server, right? I can see what all databases are here. So this is my database, WFCDB. So in this database, there are tables like person, take code, etc. So there are many tables in this. So what is the advantage of this is we can create some reports with this. Knowing SQL is very useful. It can also help in other coding or other different types of languages. So I'll send you an email on what you have to download and keep. You do this. So sometime next week we'll have one full class to know SQL. I'll give you some activities and you can test it out for me. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, then I think we'll close today's session. So, how are you both feeling? Like, do you think I'm taking it very slow, or if you're okay with the class or do you have any suggestions for me. Usually
No, ma'am.
they'll just give the system to you and they'll ask you to work on it. I'm doing double work here. I'm trying to explain you how it's working and then I want to give you an example so you'll be able to map to it. So this is my style of teaching. So if you have any concerns or any complaints, you can let me know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay then. See you both tomorrow at 2 p.m. tomorrow.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Take
Okay, ma'am.
care.
See you.
Bye. Good night.
Good night. Bye bye.
Bye. Good night.